Daily Trust News Center. This is the News Hour.
A News Hour tonight. Nigeria, U.S. agreed to work towards ending Nigerian power tussle and preserving democracy in Africa. Different strokes as commodity prices rise and fall in grain markets. Gunmen kidnap 2 funeral guests in Enugu community as police arrest native doctor found with human body in Ogun State. And away from Nigeria, Zimbabwe's President Mnangagwa wins second term. Opposition rejects results. Hello and welcome to Trust TV News Hour. I'm Aisha Salihu. And now we'll begin with Nigeria and the United States having agreed to collaborate against anti-democratic forces within and outside of the Africa, which are assaulting independent democracies on the continent. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu met with the United States Special Presidential Envoy Molly Fee on Saturday evening, vowing that crisis in Niger Republic would not deter him from concluding his economic reform program successfully for the benefit of Nigerians. Kahide Amodu reports.
President Tinubu says he will continue to hold ECOWAS back despite its readiness for all options. He's quick to add that war is not ideal for his country nor for West Africa, even though the defense of democracy is sacrosanct. The crisis in Niger throws a different color on international political realities which have existed for ages. President Tinubu's interpretation is particularly interesting. He says American-backed development finance and multilateral institutions should be reformed to meet the developmental requirements of younger democracies in Africa, which operate in authoritarian, crowded environments. The Nigerian president, moreover, stresses that legitimate yearnings of Africans should no longer be manipulated to serve the narrow aims of self-seeking demagogues through unconstitutional takeovers of power. Agreeing with him, the American Special Presidential Envoy revealed that the U.S. administration had high regard for the leadership of the chairman of ECOWAS. To this end, an exclusive invitation has been extended from U.S. President Joe Biden to President Tinubu for a meeting on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York City in late September to advance further discussions.
And foremost, of course, the economy, so business. We're looking at, of course, security concerns. That's the elephant in the room. You know, what's happening in our region, what's happening in Niger, and, other things. The return to democracy and normalcy is paramount. The security concerns in the region also very important. Both sides are pleased. Of course, we're going to Anga, so there will be sideline meetings there also to continue along the same lines.
The Nigerian president has accepted the invitation to meet the U.S. president on the sidelines of Anga, and the agenda for that meeting has pretty much been set out. From State House, Abuja, Kahinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
We have joining us now via Zoom Dr. Badamasi Saidu, Head of Political Science Department, Federal University, Birnin Kebbi. Welcome to News Hour, Doctor. Now, Doctor, Nigerian President Bola Tinubu will meet the U.S. President Joe Biden late in September to discuss bilateral relations and particularly the deepening of trade ties between their countries. How does this strike you?
Actually, this is a welcome development, and we all know that this is a routine meeting that United Nations organization always hold every year, 1 or 2 years. But the most interesting for me is that the response of our Mr. President Bola Tinubu in his own speech. Reading in between the lines, we find out that President Tinubu has really emphasized on the interests of Nigeria and Africa in general. That believing that, I'm hoping that United States of America is coming into this visit to Nigeria with the genuine intention of protecting the interests of Africa and Nigeria in particular, given the fact that we are practicing a young democracy. These are some of the keywords which Mr. President has said in his own speech. Also, he also talked about the issue of financial institutions since after the Second World War that have enabled the development of African democracies and not only Nigeria. These are many more were some of the important points which I think are area of interest to me. So first of all, we just have to understand that there are two things to this situation. Before African countries get it right as far as democracy is concerned, I think before we invite any foreign power to intervene into our own political situations and problems like what is happening just recently in Nigeria, I think Africa must get it right, first of all, by ensuring that we have a good governance. Good governance is very, very important for us to get it right in our own democracy. Because based on the way democracy is being practiced and based on the way politicians are playing, political actors are playing democracy in our own continent, in Nigeria in particular, most of them are going with the intention of making themselves rich. We found out the citizens or the electorate are not really getting the impact of what democracy should be. So I think this is the first thing that African countries should first of all do by ensuring that we have a good governance. Okay. Good governance will be the one that will deter military personnel from taking over from the civilian administration.
Okay.
Without the good governance, foreign interests will never come in to give us what we want. We want to first of all create the environment for ourselves before we can seek for any foreign intervention to come up. Because what I believe is that America and all these developed countries, whenever they come into African countries for democracy in order to pursue or to ensure democracy is being practiced, what they are looking after is they are looking for America in Nigeria. They are not looking at they are not looking for Nigeria in Nigeria. They are looking for America in Nigeria, or they are looking for France in Nigeria. So they are coming with their own. What I mean is that they are coming with their own interest, with their own motive behind it. So Africans must get it right first by having a good governance before inviting any other foreign power to come and.
I agree with you that we must first of all take care of our own democracy before inviting any foreign country into our affairs. Now, President Tinubu is talking tough and has virtually accused American-backed development finance and multilateral institutions of stifling younger democracies in Africa, which operate in authoritarian, crowded environments. Does that make any sense since his reforms are engineered by policies suggested by these same Bretton Woods institutions?
To me, not only to me, to Nigerians and also to Africans in general. Because since after the Second World War, we found out these financial institutions like the World Bank, the IMF, and some other international monetary foundations that give financial loans and assistance to Africa, the conditionalities attached before an African country to get these loans are not helping our own democracy. They are not helping our own economy. They are not helping our own development. So this is a very important point which Mr. President has highlighted to the American envoy, that America should ensure that they have reviewed the mission and the operating mechanism of these financial institutions to ensure that African interest is being captured. African interest is not being manipulated the way it has been manipulated since after the Second World War. The financial institutions are not giving us loan in order to develop our economy alone. They have to attach it with some conditionalities, which in most cases, such conditionalities are not in our own favor, are not in our own interest. And then we found out, for one reason or the other, our leaders, African leaders, will just go into the loan without scrutinizing those conditions, without taking the views of their citizens or the electorate before going into it. And further, so far so good. How many years now with this financial institution giving loans to Africans and Nigeria in particular? What development can we say that we have really achieved?
Thank you for that response.
African leaders must, yes.
Now we come back to this talk of the crisis in Niger and the hint that Africans are being manipulated to serve the narrow aims of self-seeking demagogues, through unconstitutional takeovers of power. Now let me ask you, Doctor, is that an accurate description of what is happening in Niger?
Yeah, actually, America, wherever America is going, their aim is to ensure that democracy is being spread all over the world. But they should consider what the president has said, that democracy is being operated in the most challenging environment of African situation. We have so many forces within, and also the external forces from the so-called developed countries that are that they want us to really practice the democracy. Combining together these forces are affecting the proper implementation of democracy. Because we have our cultural differences, we have our religious differences, we have our worldview and our perception. So we shouldn't expect democracy to work properly. Nigerians and Africans should fashion a way or to come up with their own democracy in a way that it will really suit in our own culture and our own system. America should not be looking at or assessing our own democracy from their own perception. It should allow us to practice it the way it should be in our own environment.
Okay, so just before we let you go, does it sound funny to you that President Tinubu is saying he was the one holding ECOWAS back from taking the military option in Niger, as war would not benefit Nigeria or the West African sub-region? I mean, does that come as a relief to you, since the feeling before was that it was the Nigerian president that was spearheading the call to arms?
Yeah, being the leader, and then he has to hold the ECOWAS from taking the last resort, which is the military engagement to restore President Bazoum of Niger into power. We have to exploit all the other avenues of dialogue, means of consultation and discussion with the military junta before the final results before the final option of military intervention. I think Mr. President has done a right thing then, because we are the one first to be affected, being the neighbor of Nigeria Republic. So without exploiting all other avenues of democracy, of consultation, of bargaining, of discussion, how do they expect us to just go? And I think he has done a good thing there by holding the ECOWAS to embark on taking the military action. I think that is the best thing for us to be in Nigeria.
Thank you so much for speaking with us, Dr. Badamasi Saidu, Head of Political Science Department, Federal University, Birnin Kebbi.
Thank you very much for again. Thank you so much.
And now, away from that, farmers and sellers of grains in Bauchi State expressed concerns over the lingering price of the commodity, despite the emergence of new maize in Nigerian markets, especially from the northern part of the country. They made a statement amidst rising cost of living due to inflation of foodstuff and other essential items currently in the country. Trust TV's Adamu Imam has details of the story.
Food widely consumed by many people, it is also a strategic raw materials in manufacturing companies for finished products. The price of this commodity in Nigerian markets is a source of concern, even with the new maize flooding the markets. It's different. Maybe it had money to buy the commodity, according to sources, even in Saminaka, Kaduna State. However, customers who usually process maize and grinded it to be prepared as food for family consumption say the value chain plays a key role in determining the price. Sack of maize is now 45,000 and it varies from place to place. And many people now prefer the new maize. And if we bring it down here, customers are expecting a lesser price. If they were told 600 naira per measure, they turn back and reject it. That is why we are so skeptical about the maize issue. Abdullahi Tale, an all-year-round farmer, says with population explosion, the National Grain Reserve cannot provide solution to food crisis currently.
In the market, there is so many challenges there because cost of production was very, very high. I don't think the price of maize, it will come down like before because farmers are suffering.
They maintain that Nigerian government should do what is right by coming together with local farmers and take the country out of food crisis. Adami Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
Similarly, price of maize has crashed down in Jangere grain market of Jangere community of Basa local government area of Plateau State, following the arrival of the new maize at the market. Trust TV's Adomusa visits the market on Sunday and reports that the new arrival had crashed down maize price. Let's take a look.
Price of the maize in the Jingir market has significantly reduced when compared to the price in the last 2 weeks. Until now, maize was sold at 65,000 naira in the Jingir market and sold at 70,000 naira in some other markets within the state. But with the arrival of the new maize, the price of the product has come down. Dealers and farmers, however, expressed delight over the price crash of the maize, adding that it is a welcome development in view of the difficult situation people are in.
So, alhamdulillah,
we thank God that the price of the product has come down. It is a good development. We sell 100 kg bag of the new maize at 37,000 naira, while the old one is sold at 50,000 naira. We believe that the coming of the new maize is a major factor that changed the market price. The price has reduced and we are happy.
As at the last 2 weeks, if you enter this market, you will not see any grain. It's hardly you see number of grains. So it leads to the hike in the price of the maize. But presently, as we are in the market, there is a little bit coming of the new maize into the market. I think this is the reason why the prices have dropped a little. But for the last week, when we entered the market, the new maize ceased completely. It's just in the market few. So it leads to the increase in the price of the grains.
Stakeholders in the market said it is likely that the price of the maize will even crash more as farmers continue to harvest new maize. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
And now to federal government's efforts to cushion the economic burden of the removal of fuel subsidy. The distribution of 3,000 bags of rice sent to Osun State by federal government to cushion the effects of economic hardship has been withheld. The committee put in place by the state government to distribute the palliative debunked the insinuation that the palliative has been diverted. Hamido Yegbade files this report.
The expectation of residents of Osun State was high as they prepared to receive the palliatives sent to the state by federal government. The state government confirmed the receipt of over 3,000 bags of rice sent to the state by the federal government out of the over 17,000 bags promised. The committee set up by the state government to distribute the palliative said the distribution will be delayed until the second batch arrived.
The other contingent to come. When it comes, we now sit again to distribute the way God has planned for us to do it.
As soon as we receive that of the second batch, we are going to roll out the templates too, and we are going to distribute. So far, if we had the first batch and the second batch together, if we receive everything, it means that the federal government has given us a total number of 17,500 plus bags of rice.
The chairman of the Osun State chapter of Joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities, Stephen Oluwafemi, said rice distribution is not a solution to the current hardship.
Rice is a thing that we can eat within a day or 2 days, and we go back to our problem we are facing. So we need something tangible that can make life even better.
Meanwhile, vulnerable residents are groaning over hunger and are eager to receive the palliatives to ameliorate their current sufferings. Hamid Oyegbade, Trust TV News, Osogbo.
Meanwhile, in spite of all measures taken to cushion the effects of fuel subsidy removal, many internally displaced persons in Katsina are struggling to make ends meet. Despite their misfortunes, which they describe as hard to endure, the IDPs say they are not benefiting from the distribution of the palliatives by government. This has forced many of the IDPs who are overburdened by debt to beg and engage in other menial jobs to earn a living. Abdullahi Yamadi completes the report.
A large percentage of the IDPs were displaced from their communities by incessant attacks by bandits. Many of these women and children left their ravaged communities to Katsina and other cities without any of their personal belongings. I'm looking at several options, and now I have decided to go back to my village to face the risk of either being killed or kidnapped. No matter what, I believe it will be better for me than living in this unbearable condition. Look at us. Do you see any sign of good living here? Bandits rustled all our domestic animals, raped our women and children, dispossessed us of all our belongings, and killed some members of our families. We are here because we don't have any other option, and we are suffering seriously. To these depressed-looking IDPs, the main priority here is food and rent, while school for their children is a secondary consideration. This suggests that the future of the next generation is already in peril if nothing is done to arrest the situation. If I tell you that we are in trouble, you will not believe me, but this is the reality. For instance, any individual who limits his thinking to what he will eat will never be productive because his thoughts are dominated by food. Number one priority is food. Second priority is food. Third priority is food. In this digital age, how would he be productive? The intensity of their hardship is evident in their appearance and the uninhabitable rented houses they occupy. The IDPs lament that they have made several requests to the government in the past, seeking for assistance, but to no avail. They are hoping that the story will change and that the Diko Umaru Rada administration will come to their rescue. The estimated population of IDPs living in unofficial camps in Katsina surpass 1 million, while many others squat or hanging around filling stations, bank premises, and other public institutions across the 34 local government headquarters of Katsina State. Observers are calling for special consideration to the IDPs during the ongoing distribution of palliatives and other special interventions to cushion the effects of hardship and give them a sense of belonging. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State has announced the donation of 36 million naira to be shared at 30,000 naira each to the 1,215 National Youth Service Corps members deployed to the state. A statement by the Special Advisor to the Governor on Media and Strategy, Malam Issa Gusau, said that Zulum made the donation during his visit to the NYC orientation camp in Maiduguri. Gusau said Zulum also allocated 100 bags of rice, 10 cows, 10 bags of 100 kilograms of beans, and 10 gallons of cooking oil for special meals to be prepared for the Corps members during their ongoing 3 weeks orientation. He urged the Corps members to adhere to camp rules by living peacefully among themselves and engaging in acts that would foster peace in the country. And now to political matters. Crisis seems to be brewing in the People's Democratic Party in Birnin Magaji local government area of Zamfara State, following the nomination of a candidate who would be appointed as the sole administrator of the local government area. A group under the PDP in the area is accusing the state's commissioner for housing of hijacking the nomination and forwarding the name of his close ally, which the group led by the financial secretary of the party in the local government area, Sani Birnin Magaji, opposes the idea but preferred a more younger person. The group claimed that it wanted a balanced spread of the political offices and therefore canvassing support for someone from a different ward instead of picking people from only the Birnin Magaji town ward and abandoning the other wards, which it described as unfair. Reacting to the allegations, the Commissioner for Housing, Kabiru Maruyi, however, refuted the claim that there is crisis in the PDP in Birnin Magaji local government. He urged members of the PDP to be patient as Governor Dauda Lawal's administration has just begun and more appointments will come to the local government area.
The main purpose of this administration is to rescue. You know, Zamfara is on its knees waiting for the rescue. It has broken completely. What is most important to the people of the state is to have security, which we are yearning for. So this administration will not succeed until we united. So I'm calling on them to come together to give His Excellency the maximum cooperation.
And now to security matters. The Plateau State Police Command on Saturday unsealed all the 17 local government secretariats for suspended chairmen and their councillors. The reinstated local government chairmen who were elected on the platform of the All Progressive Congress were suspended by Governor Caleb Mutfwang for alleged misappropriation of funds, an allegation that the embattled chairman denied. In a statement by the spokesperson of the State Police Command, DSP Alabo Alfred said only the elected chairmen were allowed to enter offices at the secretariats, adding that the elected chairman would remain in the office pending the decision of the court. Governor Mutfwang had following the suspension of the elected chairman, appointed new caretaker chairman to take charge of the secretariats. Suspected bandits have attacked Wusasa area of Zaria local government area and abducted a hospital staff and his brother on Friday night. The bandits, who invaded the area around 9 p.m., shot sporadically to disperse crowd before picking their victims, Yushao Peter of St. Luke's Hospital, Wusasa, and his brother, Joshua Peter. Confirming the incident, engineer Isiaku Ibrahim, village head of Wusasa, said the assailant arrived the area around 9 p.m. Friday night, shooting sporadically before abducting the two brothers. Wusasa settlement, which is predominantly a Christian community in the outskirts of the ancient city of Zazzau, had witnessed a series of bandit attacks in recent time. The Kaduna State Public Relations Officer, Mohammed Jalige, could not be reached despite calls on his mobile phone as it was not going through. 2 persons have been reportedly kidnapped along Ehandiagu-Ehwalo Road in Ehwalo-Mona, Nsukka local government area of Enugu State. The 2 victims were kidnapped at Akwari village in Eha Etiti Autonomous Community while on their way from a funeral ceremony in Ehandiagu and were heading back to Ehwalo in company of others. A member of the neighborhood watch in the area confirmed the incident and said that a team of the Nigeria Police Force, Neighborhood Watch and forest guards were combing the area in search of the hoodlums and the victims. The Ogun State Police Command said it had arrested one self-acclaimed native doctor, Babatunde Kolawole, after he was found with a fresh male corpse in the Ado-Odo Ota area of the state. The command, through its spokesperson, SP Omolola Odutola, stated on Sunday that the suspect, who was apprehended by the Amotekun Corps, claimed he was trying to revive the deceased. According to the statement, investigations have commenced to unravel the misery behind the native doctor's action. You're watching the News Hour on Trust TV. Coming up shortly, we'll take a look at special delicacies from the Efik people. Details of this story and more to come after the break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
It was never a consensus. We did all our best. You see, in politics, you give your contribution to the best of your ability.
If you want, I'll forward to you this statement. You go to this bank and verify.
But there are people who say not spending money is not about you.
I'm coming. Let me finish.
Because there's so much to be done.
Let me finish. Now, you don't allow me to explain myself.
The recent development shows abductions are now a factor of informants embedded in community.
It's not about the people of Katsina to say that, no, during my administration I was able to stop insecurity. No, it's about collective responsibility for all of us.
And what we should ask ourselves is not what has been seen, is the life better? Are there more people who are unemployed who are not become employed? Is the level of corruption has gone down? Is there inclusion? all those issues.
We're actually a gas country with associated oil. Our focus has always been on oil, that we have never paid significant attention to gas.
To do it effectively, we need to have honest conversation with ourselves. Government needs to come down from its high horse and communicate with the people and build trust.
There must be a solution. We cannot continue this way. They must come back to the table and agree. So whose child will do deny education? All these children that sit for jam, they want to go to higher institutions.
But just a short while ago, you were saying that why bring 10 children when you cannot cater for them? So why bring more universities when you cannot cater for the existing?
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is the News Hour on Trust TV. Now, here is a recap of some of our major stories. We told you that Nigeria, United States of America agreed to work towards ending Nigerian power tussle and preserving democracy in Africa. And different strokes as commodity prices rise and fall in grain markets. And now to more stories. Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project has urged President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to use his good office and leadership position to immediately reverse the unlawful ban on 25 journalists and media houses from covering the presidential villa and restore the accreditations of those affected. Serap urged him to publicly instruct the officials in the presidential villa to allow journalists and media houses to freely do their jobs and discharge their constitutional duty of holding those in power to account. According to reports, the federal government recently withdrew the accreditations of some 25 journalists covering activities at the presidential villa, Abuja. In the letter dated 26 August 2023 and signed by Serap Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare, the organization said barring these journalists and media houses from covering the presidential villa is to prevent them from carrying out their legitimate constitutional responsibility. According to Serap, media freedom is a cornerstone of Nigeria's democracy, and journalists must be able to hold the government to account. This is a matter of public interest. The government cannot cherry-pick journalists to cover its activities. The Police Service Commission says the Supreme Court has ruled in favor of the Commission to solely take the responsibility of recruiting officers on the rank of constables for the Nigeria Police Force. Giving an update on Sunday, the spokesman for the PSC, Ikechukwu Ani, claimed that on July 11, 2023, the Apex Court in the land decided and laid to rest the contentious issue and controversy between the Commission and the police. According to Ani, in the judgment, the Supreme Court unequivocally pronounced the Commission as an agency statutorily mandated to do so, quoting the chairman of PSC, Solomon Arase, to have said the judgment was in the interest of the national security. PSC is yet to make available the certified true copies of the judgment when our correspondent requested. And now the Bayelsa State Governor Doye Diri has affirmed the commitment of his administration to ensure peace and security in Nembe, Basamberi and its adjoining communities. Friday, Ebim Mobowe Peter has the report.
Senator Doyodiri made a declaration during a visit by the State Security Council accompanied by service commanders to the Nembe Basamberi community to conduct an on-the-spot assessment and ascertain the causes of the crisis in Nembe local government area. Upon arriving, the governor engaged with the leader of the IGP SWAT team stationed in Nembe Basamberi, discussing the approach to achieving peace and tranquility in the community, while emphasizing the need for impartiality and legality.
Perception that some people have been driven away because you came, and by your coming, some people were witch hunted, and those people can no longer come into Nembe Basamberi. That perception has to stop. I'm here for security and peace, of security of lives and property, so that at the end of the day, your operation here, you will go home with your conscience clear that you came here to secure the lives and properties of the people of Nembe Basamberi. There should be nothing other than that. That's why you see your CP here. I'm also in touch with your IGP. I would not want this place and your being here to be turned into politics.
Addressing those seeking refuge in Nembe Ogbolomabri due to the turmoil in Opu Nembe, the state chief executive emphasized that his second-term ambition should not come at the cost of people's life, calling for unity among the Nembe-speaking people.
Everyone's life in Basamberi is important to me as governor of Bayelsa State. Everyone's life in Ogbolomabri is important to me. And I will not spill one life to become or to retain my office. And so, please, I know there are inconveniences now. In every good thing, there is also bad things. Bear the inconveniences, and as we continue to work towards peace in Nembe generally, Nembe people must love themselves.
Meanwhile, the president of the John National Congress, INC, Professor Benjamin Okaba, who was part of the assessment visit, expressed concern about the indiscriminate use of firearms to cause chaos and fear in the community, urging the people to distance themselves from bitter political disputes. Professor Benjamin Okaba expressed worries that if not addressed, such situation could lead to further unrest in the state, however, pledging that the Congress will mobilize all its resources to support the restoration of peace in Nembe Basamberi.
What we have in Nembe right now, fear, uncertainties, and if these issues are not properly addressed and urgently too, we fear that it might escalate by way of spreading to other communities like Ogbolomabri and to other local government areas in the state. As INC, we endorse the resolutions made by the State Security Council in their meeting yesterday, which includes the curfew, which also includes investigations as many persons that are involved, and they should be brought to book. So we also want to use the opportunity to call on Ijaw people. Let us distance ourselves from the politics of bitterness.
The Nembe Basamberi, once bustling, is now deserted due to fear with some access roads blocked by the IGP SWAT police team stationed in the community. In Yanagwa, Friday, Ebimobowe Peter, Trust TV News.
And now to Kogi State, Governor Yahya Bello has said the efforts of the former leaders and his contributions made the state to overcome mounting challenges since its creation. The state government disclosed this on Sunday at Lokoja in his address to mark the 32nd anniversary of the creation of the state. The governor said the historic occasion remains a day of remembrance and recommitment to ensure the state takes its pride of place in the country. Governor Bello stated further that the contributions of his predecessors had placed the land and its people on the track of greatness. The governor, however, said his administration has been committed to the New Direction Blueprint, which he claimed to be the major driver of his actions and decisions for the past almost 8 years in office. Similarly, residents of Delta State have tasked the state government to deepen democratic values and ensure improved infrastructure, human capital development, among others. They gave the advice on the sidelines of the interdenominational Thanksgiving service to mark the 32 years of the state's creation. According to them, true democracy would promote patriotism and encourage citizens to consistently trust and give maximum support to the government.
Leaders that are down to earth, leaders that really care for the masses. And so I have a strong belief that going forward, we will continue to see progress in the area of human capital development, in the area of education and so on and so forth. So all I can do is to pray for the government of Delta State
to improve and deepening democracy within the people so that we can always understand ourselves.
There has been unity amongst Deltans. We are one people, under one nation and under one God. And we will continue to grow from strength to strength.
Those in governance, we charge them to ensure that the dividend of democracy is evenly distributed. No quarter, no part should be cheated. All should be treated equally.
31 victims of a recent building collapse that claimed 2 lives in the Federal Capital Territory have been discharged from the National Hospital, Asokoro, and 5 other hospitals across the nation's capital. The 37 persons rescued from last Wednesday's incident were taken to the National Hospital, Garki Hospital, the General Hospitals in Asokoro and Nyanya, and 2 private hospitals. The acting secretary of the Health and Human Service Secretariat, Noel Haruna, stated that the FCT administration was offsetting the medical bills of the victims. Officials of the FCTA were checking up on victims of the latest building collapse in the Garki area of the capital city. The FCTA promises to ensure that all the rescued victims are able to return to their normal lives. The federal government has advised state governments to prepare against floods following an increase in the volume of flow along River Benue. Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Joseph Utsev, and the Minister of State for Water Resources and Sanitation, Bello Mohamed Goronyo, disclosed this at a press briefing in Abuja. The minister said it was important for states to prepare since the country was already witnessing heavy rainfall. While advocating the removal of illegal structures constructed within the floodplains, he urged the general public, especially road users, to desist from walking or driving through any pool of water or flood. On the situation at Lokoja, the minister stated that despite the heightened flow volume along the River Benue system, the flow situation at the confluence of the Niger and Benue rivers in Lokoja, Kogi State remained within normal perimeters. Recognizing Nigeria's downstream position in relation to the 9 member countries of the Niger River Basin, Utsev said it was important to acknowledge the period of heavy rainfall, flooding, and flood-related disasters that typically occurred in July, August, September, and October. The minister said there was no immediate threat of flooding, calling on the government at all levels to put measures in place to prevent flood emergencies. And now one of the major problems of rural dwellers in Benue State is poor road networks. In the rainy season, they face terrible times with culverts and bridges submerged or washed away. Jimmy Azande has details of this story.
Sites like washed-away bridges or culverts overrun by water are common occurrences in most Benue villages, making life difficult to those affected.
Because sometimes these bridges are awarded to some people who are not with the interests of their societies at heart, so they can do anything. And when serious flood hits those bridges, they flow away. Particularly, I am speaking out of experience. I'm a victim of such local bridges, and I know very well as somebody who is a villager and who always partake in bringing out the agricultural produce from my village to the market. I experience such things, and I know that it has affected me. So I am certain to say that the government should improve, even though if he is to assign contractors, let him look for some people who are corrupt-free.
For the dwellers in these villages to reach out to markets and other social institutions around them, they have to wait until water recedes.
The one way we are managing, those people they come here to manage us, but they don't scatter it. No breach, no anything. The breach where we are gathering, we use wood gather it, they can't scatter the breach. As now, where I'm telling you this, if the person we are seeking is, or those our children who we have here, they are trying to go to school, back to school, there's no road. Where we will pass and go. You see how we road Deva. You see you see bridge, no bridge. You see how water they are flowing. The one we are managing is not there.
Sad as the situation is, there is plenty that they have continued to render their obligations to the federal and state governments during elections and also payment of taxes.
It is very difficult for us to go outside to places like Uba. There are major towns, our major markets for us to go and sell our goods. Our children, our brothers, and our people here cannot actually travel from one place to the other. It is as if we have been confined in an island in such a way that nobody can actually go out to go and do anything.
The government of Reverend Father Hyacinth earlier promised to improve on general infrastructure, but until that is done, the rural dwellers will continue to go through untold hardship. Jimmy Azande, Trust TV News, Makurdi.
And now to health matters. In order to prevent any incident of anthrax disease in the state, the Oyo State government has called on its residents to report any case of anthrax and other animal disease in their domain. The call was made during a media and stakeholder sensitization carried out by the Oyo State government in Isheyin Town, Oyo State. Our correspondent Sam Glory has more details on this report.
In July 2023, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development confirmed one case of anthrax disease in a mixed livestock farm in Niger State. It was considered the first animal case to be reported in Nigeria since the beginning of the West African outbreak in Ghana in June 2023. In an attempt to avoid this outbreak in Oyo State, the Ministry of Health and Agriculture visited the cattle market in Isheyin Town to raise awareness among cattle rearers about the disease outbreak and educate them on the preventive measures. Health and animal specialists who engage in cattle rearing outlined the symptoms and consequences of the disease on livestock, urging them to prioritize animal vaccination as a preventive measure.
Anthrax, by God's grace, for now, there's no information about such in Oyo State, but we are all aware that in the neighboring Lagos State, they have recorded an index case. Niger State first recorded it in the country, followed by Plateau State, and not too long ago they had one in Lagos State. But for now, there's no a report of single case.
Market leaders appreciated the visit and proactive move towards preventing the disease and promised stringent punishment for members who violate the guidelines put in place to guard against the anthrax and other animal diseases. Taking the sensitization program to Okeogun axis of Oyo State is a strategic decision as the region plays a crucial role as the food basket of the state.
Efik people are Nigerians and located primarily in southern coast of the country as well as in the western Cameroon. They are a historic people who first had contact with the white men who were involved in the slave trade era. But they are unique and famous for their cuisines, and their women's cookery skills are legendary. This is the reason their foods such as the very popular Edikaikong soup, Abakatama, Ekpang Nkukwo, which is otherwise known as porridge, made of cocoyam and water yam, and plantain are famous and sought after. Some residents of Calabar speak about these delicacies and how they are prepared. The report.
Most people who travel to Cross River, especially the state capital, Calabar, want to have a taste of popular Edikaiko soup or fisherman soup, afia efere, coconut rice, or afang soup. It should be noted, however, that their sisters in neighboring Akwa Ibom State are equally skilled in cooking these types of delicacies.
Cocoyam, watayam, mfi, periwinkle. We are using bonga fish, dry fish, snail, even dry meat in ekpang kukwa. And the ekpang kukwa, the cocoyam, we are using the leaf. When you grind water yam and cocoyam, we mix it. When you mix it finish, you carry the leaf of the cocoyam and tie it small. You wash a pot. When you wash your pot finish, you put the mfi, periwinkle on the ground of the pot.
Youths of these days, they don't know what is a pangpoito. In fact, maybe if you even keep it before them, they may not even know. No, we have auto and so many different types. So Efik is a very special. Efik Crusade is very special. Very special. If you go to most restaurants, this kind of food I'm mentioning are usually very costly.
But it is the Efik, better known as Calabar people, whom the soup has come to be well associated with. The Efik delicacies have become a brand, which reason many restaurants in different parts of Nigeria and abroad adopt the name Calabar Kitchen to attract patronage.
The federal government says it is working to ensure that all refineries in the country are fixed in order to end importation of fuel as well as stop flaring gas in the country in the next few years. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Heineken Lokbogberi, disclosed this while speaking to journalists at LMA shortly after inspecting the ongoing rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt refinery. Lokbogberi reassured Nigerians that the Port Harcourt refinery will come on stream before the end of 2023 and will be producing between 54,000 barrels and 60,000 barrels per day. On his part, the Minister of State for Gas Resources, Periekpe Ekpo, said government is desperate to generate more gas that can boost power supply and also reduce the burden of fuel consumption. He assured of the federal government's resolve to stop gas flaring.
Our own objective is to ensure that in the next few years, Nigeria stops fuel importation. And that is why we're here to see the extent of work done, and we're satisfied with what we have seen here. From what we have seen here, Port Harcourt will come on board by the end of the year, Warri will start by the first quarter of next year, and then Kaduna will come on stream towards the end of next year. If we add that together with Dangote Refinery, we'll be able to stop fuel importation that is taking a substantial part of our forex. And Nigerians can now have the benefit of having the benefit of food deregulation.
We know gas is very important and we have it in abundance. And so the issue is that of trying to gather the gas to generate power supply and other applications that you need gas in the country. And the government is very desperate about it, intentional, that we will be able to bring in foreign investors to invest in the gas. And of course, to try and stop gas flaring, in which case there is a policy to stop that, and they are complying with what we have received, the brief we have received today. There is hope for Nigeria that gas flaring will stop and gas generation will increase.
And now away from Nigeria, Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has won a second and final term in office in an outcome rejected by the opposition and questioned by observers. Mnangagwa, who took over from long-term Leader Robert Mugabe, after a 2017 army coup, was widely expected to secure re-election despite the country's continuing economic crisis, with analysts saying the contest was heavily skewed in favor of the ZANU-PF party, which has ruled the country since independence and the end of white minority rule in 1980. Mnangagwa won 52.6% of the vote compared with 44% for Nelson Chamisa, his main challenger, according to official results announced by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission late on Saturday. The elections were marred by delays that fueled opposition's accusations of rigging and voter suppression, but a small group of ruling party supporters celebrated the outcome on Saturday. But Promise Mokwananzi, a spokesman for the Chamisa Citizen Coalition for Change, said the party had not signed the final tally. The vote was being watched across southern Africa as a test of support for Mnangagwa ZANU-PF, whose 43-year rule has been battered by its disastrous management of the economy and charges of authoritarianism. With that, we've come to the end of Trust TV News Hour. Do not forget to follow us across all of our social media platforms. Join our YouTube live stream for more news, documentaries, and programs. I'm Aisha Salihu. Many thanks for watching.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.